In this video, we're going to show you how to install front brakes on your Dodge Charger located behind your front wheels. Using a 22mm socket, let's loosen and remove our lug nuts. Remove the wheel and set it aside. We went ahead and turned our wheel to the right, so that gives us a little more room to access the backside of our caliper. We're going to use a 13mm deep socket. Our pins here are spinning with our bolt, so we're going to go ahead and hold the inside here. So we're going to use our 18mm wrench to hold the slide pin on the inside here. Remove the bolt, and then we're going to do the same for up top. We're going to use a small pry bar or a similar tool. Go ahead and slide this off. We want to go ahead and compress this piston back into the caliper. So what we're going to do is take one of the old pads. We're going to set it up here. Use our compressor tool, and we're going to slowly compress this. And what's happening is we're just pushing that brake fluid back up into the master cylinder, into the line. And we want to make sure that that piston is completely compressed flush and is fully recessed. So we can now go ahead and remove. Our next step is to use a hanging tool here, and we're going to position this so that we can hang this off of our strut spring. We don't want the caliper to be hanging on the flex hose here, as that can damage that. We can go ahead and remove our outboard pad. So both of our pads are now removed. On the back side of our caliper bracket here, there are two bolts we need to loosen and remove. It's a 21mm. The key thing here is to use a thin wall socket, because trying to get a thick wall socket between this bracket and the upper bolt won't happen. So thin wall, shallow. Gotta loosen that. Do the same for the bottom. We just switch over and we'll go ahead and zip those out. Go ahead and grab that bracket, slide that off. Now the upper bolt, we're gonna leave right in place here because we have a bracket and it hits the collar of the bolt. Not a big issue. So just leave that in place. Go ahead and grab that brake rotor, slide it off, and set it aside. Let's go ahead and clean our hub face from any of this rust and debris that might be on there. Just gonna spray this down. And you could use a bristle brush. You can also use a whizzer wheel if you have power tools like that. You just wanna make sure that the hub face is smooth so that your brake rotor fits on there nice and flush. We want to go ahead and spray down our hub face with some anti-seize. You can go ahead and grab your rotor and set this in a position. We're going to put on our lug nut here just to hold this in place. Now this particular rotor is a treated rotor. It could be a G-coated or something that has a special coating on it. If you order up just a standard machined rotor and it has an oil coating on it, you want to go ahead and use some brake cleaner or solvent on there to clean all of that oil off before installing it on the car. We'll get and slide your slider pins out. You'll flip these up and remove the pad slides. Well, this one here is missing already. Go ahead and use your wire brush. You want to clean where the slides will go. Now, if you notice that you have some built-up rust inside the grooves here, go ahead and use a flat file to go ahead and clean that up. Be sure not to remove any metal. Now flip this over and repeat that process for the other side. I'm going to go ahead and spray some solvent inside the port. We're going to use our bristle brush to go inside. I want to Go ahead and clean up any of that old grease that's in there. You want to go ahead and repeat this process for the other port. Take your slide pins. You want to clean these. If you want, you can use some spray solvent. Then you want to go ahead and inspect these here. Make sure that they're not rusty or swollen in any way. Make sure that they are clean and smooth. Repeat that process for the other side. Ours are in good shape. Now, if yours are damaged, you do want to go ahead and replace those slide pins. Apply a thin coat of grease to the slide pins. Go ahead and insert those. Make sure that that rubber seal slides in. And repeat for the other side. Go ahead and stand this up. Apply a thin coat of grease to where the slides are going to come in contact. Make sure it's a thin coat. We don't want lumps of grease sitting there, so go ahead and spread that around, and then take your new slides, press those down, make sure they're fully seated. Repeat for the other side. Now our caliper bracket is ready for installation. You're going to take your caliper bracket, I'm going to slide this over. I'm going to slide this into position. I'm going to go ahead and get our upper bolt started. I'm just going to thread that in quite a bit there, and then we'll go ahead and get the lower bolt started. Then we can go ahead and snug those down. We have our caliper piston right here. I want to go ahead and just clean the surface of that. You want to make sure that it's smooth and free of any raised spots. If so, you can use a flat file if you want to go ahead and clean that. Ours looks like it's in good shape. So you want to flip it over to the other side and clean the other side where the back of the brake pad is going to go. You can do the same here. You can use just your bristle brush and clean it. If you have extreme rust on there, go ahead and use your flat file to go ahead and clean it. I'm going to install our brake pads. I'm going to line up the tabs. Press those into place. Push them right up against the brake rotor. We're going to do the same for the inside. With both of those in place, we can now remove the hook. Slide our caliper over, and as we bring that on, we want to go ahead and push in on the slide pins, compressing them into the caliper bracket. Install your bolts. And let's go ahead and snug those down. Just snug those gently. We'll come back and torque them down. Go ahead and remove that lug nut. Torque down your slide pin bolts to 44 foot-pounds. In our case here, our slide pins are spinning, so we're going to go ahead and use our wrench. On our caliper bracket bolts, we want to torque these down to 87 foot-pounds. If you have the SRT model, it is 121 foot-pounds. Go ahead and grab your wheel, line that up, set it into place. We want to go ahead and get all of our lug nuts started by hand, and then we'll snug them down. Go ahead and torque your lug nuts down to 130 foot-pounds. I'm going to do this in a crisscross pattern.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.